It is 10:01. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. The Nashville Predators finished the regular season with a 4-2 loss at the Pittsburgh Penguins on Monday, but they are locked in to the first wild card spot in the West heading into the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Preds' playoff opponent is not yet official. The NHL's regular season will end on Thursday night. The WNBA draft was on Monday, and as expected, Caitlin Clark went number 1 overall to the Indiana Fever. Tennessee forward Rakea Jackson went number 4 overall to the LA Sparks. And the Chicago Sky selected South Carolina center Camila Cardoso at 3 and LSU star Angel Reese with the 7th pick. The spring transfer portal opened today. Tennessee linebacker Elijah Herring is the first Vol to enter his name, the Riverdale product, heading into his junior season. Tennessee basketball acquired Hofstra transfer Darling Stone Dubar, a 40% three-point shooter from the last 2 seasons. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
All right. It feels so good to be back. Hope you miss me as much as I missed you. I'm sure that's not quite the case, but either way, you stuck with me for the next 3 hours. Lucas Panzica back there behind the glass. You more comfortable back there? I heard it got a little rocky, unsurprisingly, as far as the production value goes around here.
We stayed on the mean of this show. We did not waver. Despite my best efforts.
I appreciate you continuing to carry the torch of incompetence that has become the brand of this very radio show. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in. We'd be happy to have you at any point. Lyndsay Rowley will be in studio. The Preds wrapping up the regular season, just awaiting some additional results to see who their first-round opponent will be in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Unfortunately, they couldn't get a win last night against the Pens, but that's okay. We got postseason hockey in our lives, and Lyndsay will break it down with us at 11:20. You also have access to the F&M Bank chat, where you can live stream the show on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. So what happened yesterday? You want to walk me through it? What were you trying to set up? What happened? Because I got a lot of messages on social media yesterday about just how bad you two were.
Oh, just trying to have a competent conversation about the orange and white game. Nico Iamaleava's first spring game as the unquestioned starter of this Tennessee football team. And, he talked post-game about how he's trying to grow as a leader in this locker room, how he's trying to be more vocal. He's always been a more reserved, quiet guy, and he's trying to kind of lean into that, develop more of that side of his game. And, okay, let's hear from Nico Iamaleava, and this is what I get. This was Nico Iamaleava when he was asked just what the next step is for him as a leader on this Tennessee football team.
Erectile.
Yeah, I've been working on just being more vocal with the guys. I'm being louder for them when I need to be.
Jackson, pot it down. Pot it down. What just happened?
I double-clicked it, and it didn't go to it went to one of Buck's ad reads, and we could have just glossed over this.
Just of all the words in the English language, Jackson, that we could have played from a Buck Live spot or whatever wrong audio that was accidentally selected, that's the one. That's the one that we landed on.
Unfortunate, very unfortunate.
I don't know how we continue the show from here. Truly, I don't know how we are able to. Am I supposed to collect myself? And were we just going to listen to the rest of that audio from Nico Iamaleava?
That was my hope. Joseph's not doing a good job of collecting himself over here.
Is that what we were supposed to do there?
Yes.
Just sit back and listen to the Tennessee quarterback? Play the Nico audio.
That warms my soul in ways that you cannot imagine. The only impact that I had on the radio show for the last 2 days while I've been on South Beach is the word erectile. Especially with you, because every time I try to talk about sex or make any kind of sex jokes or whatever the case, like the way I can visibly see your skin crawl. And you sitting there on a solo shot camera for the whole world to see your shame and your face as this is broadcast across the internet. And the internet is forever, by the way. We've got an account that specifically exists to screenshot our various reactions. That my only contribution to the radio show from Miami was erectile.
I have to recognize how funny that is. But
why would you even try to do a serious sports talk radio show?
I felt more like I felt gross at the end of that segment because I said, I feel like Buck. That's exactly how Buck would react in that moment. I started to get like I don't know. It's like a werewolf when like the moon becomes a full moon, and I felt like I was starting to turn into you just sitting in that chair. Robert walked in. I was like, "What are you doing? Get out of here! Get out of my studio!" And then I was like looking at my reflection in front of the computer in front of you. So, who am I? What's happening?
That's cute, bud.
Get me out of this seat.
I missed you too. I don't know why the hell any of us would try to do a professional radio. It's been 3 years of us doing this silly bleep. Why the hell would we change it up now? It's perfect.
What's the point?
Chef's kiss.
UW on the F&M Bank chat says that clip made Lucas stiffen up. The jokes are flying.
Oh, it's so good to be back. I am also pro-vacation upon my return. This has been a battle that I've been fighting my entire life that I hated going on vacation.
Stop.
Turns out I've just been vacationing the wrong way, bud.
No.
Why? What's wrong?
Because you went to a wedding.
Yeah.
And then you took an extra day
2 days
on your wedding trip to sit on the beach. That is not a vacation.
That is a vacation.
That is not a vacation.
That is absolutely a vacation.
If not for this wedding, you would not have gone on this quote-unquote vacation. A vacation is you saying, let's go somewhere, to be at this place for 4 or 5 days, to take a load off, to take a break from the hustle and bustle of my everyday job. Not going to a wedding and then, well, I'm in Miami for this wedding. I'll spend a day on the beach.
Yeah,
That's not a vacation.
I've tried the thing that you say is vacation, and I hate it. Okay? I hate it. I'm not ever just going to go somewhere to go somewhere.
Then you're not pro-vacation. That is like the definition of vacation.
No, I am pro-vacation because now that I figured out, and it's just going to be dependent on me continuing to have destination weddings and I'm running out. In fact, I'm out of college roommates I'm the last man standing that's not married.
Good for you. It's always a good feeling when that gauntlet of weddings comes to an end finally.
Well, it's not over because there are still people in my life getting married. I've been talking to Ramon about this before while we were changing shifts. I swear to God, I've been dealing with a wedding backlog since post-COVID. Like people whose weddings and I felt so bad for everybody who planned weddings throughout the pandemic and stuff like that and tried to get them to work and had to change locations because various cities were closing down and things like that and just throwing all that stuff into flux. But I feel like it has been a 4-year sprint of weddings. And, now it's just the difference that I'm choosing to go to them, and they just happen to be in Los Angeles and Miami Beach. And so, yeah, if I can tack a couple extra days onto said destination wedding and call it a vacation, I don't ever want to be anywhere for more than 2 days anyway, Lucas. That sounds like my personal hell.
Suit yourself, bud. When I vacation, I vacation. Don't just go to a wedding and call it a vacation.
Have you ever had culture envy at a wedding? Have you ever gone to a different kind of a wedding? Like one of my college roommates, Cuban guy from South Beach, lives on Key Biscayne. Completely different wedding environment than I've ever been in. Having gone, I don't know that it was a traditional Cuban wedding, quote unquote, but there's a lot of different bells and whistles from a lot of different cultures. The food, excellent. Like Miami, again, it's like Los Angeles. I don't think I could ever live there, but it's among the best places in the world to just go visit.
I feel like I could live in Miami.
Miami's awesome.
It's awesome. Miami is amazing.
I've
never seen more of a splash of every culture you can think of in one place in the U.S.
If 10 different people didn't try to get me involved in a real estate hustle from the time that I touched down at the airport, then I would say I would agree with you. It's a lot of different. It's not like Vegas solicitation. It's a different kind of solicitation, but it's just as aggressive and it's annoying. Either way. So I had culture envy this weekend because the Cuban wedding that I was at is the most fun wedding of my lifetime, and I thought that I had just experienced that in Los Angeles and Santa Monica a couple of weeks ago, but I stand corrected. Have you been to any other like different kinds of weddings, different kind of cultures weddings in your life?
I've been to weddings in other countries of family members.
Okay,
so that's about it. Like but that's stuff I grew up with, so it's not like it's like a new immersing myself in something new.
Well, I just realized how many of my friends have had terribly boring weddings.
Yeah.
Based
Have you been to an Italian wedding yet?
I have been. Well, the family is Italian. I would not say that it was like an overwhelming Italian wedding or something like that. I've never been. I'm Egyptian. I've never been to a traditional Egyptian wedding for what it's worth. But like experiencing that, and maybe it's just because it's 85 degrees and the weather's beautiful and you're on the water and everybody's. Pitbull hits a little harder on South Beach. Like, it's just a big time.
An Italian wedding has to be in a Catholic church. The ceremony's in a Catholic church. And then the reception is just a big party, and the food is incredible.
Somebody said, Trippin' Titans in the FNM Bank chat on YouTube says, wedding at a snake-handling church count? What the hell does that even mean? A snake-handling church?
Yeah. You don't know, you never heard of a snake-handling church?
Have you?
Yeah, like where the pastors like have snakes on their shoulders, and it's like
this is a thing?
Google it.
Are you sure? On a work computer?
Google it.
That sounds like something I should. Snake handling? That sounds like something I shouldn't Google at a work. We've had enough erectile jokes for the day. Okay? Relax. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in. All right, let's talk some actual sports because a lot of things happened while I was gone, and we are 9 days away from the NFL draft. I'm excited. I know you're excited. I know everybody at the Titans facility is excited because it's been a fun offseason, a very volatile, seems like too strong a word for the offseason, but there's definitely been a lot of action. And in something that I was reading about today, Peter Schrager talking to many NFL head coaches and general managers over the course of a couple of weeks to put out one single mock draft that I think is going to surprise you, and also the impact that Bill Callahan is having on the pre-draft process. We'll talk about all that coming up next. 9 days until the NFL draft goes down. First round in Detroit this year, the NFL draft, not just the first round, but the first round on Thursday, the 25th. Detroit getting the opportunity to host. I saw Mike Keith post on his Instagram the other day, a couple of days ago, that it's been 5 years since Nashville hosted the NFL draft and basically set the tone for every other city to try and outdo it. And I have yet to see a city do the draft as well as Nashville.
I was just in Detroit. They've got all the signage and everything. They're putting up little, the Hollywood sign. They're trying to put versions of those that say Detroit all over town.
Why were you in Detroit?
I always fly into Detroit to go to Toledo to see Megan. Okay. So we always spend some amount of time there.
Do you enjoy your time in Detroit?
I like Detroit. I know Detroit gets kind of a bad rap, and I guess it's improved over the years. But every time I've gone to Greektown or whatever, I've greatly enjoyed it. I think it's a cool city.
Did you see any of the draft setup? I mean,
I didn't see any of the stage or anything like that. It's just the signage is everywhere.
Okay, well, they've tried to make it a destination thing. They have done so with relative levels of success, but again, Nashville is just really so well equipped to be able to pull something like that off at a massive scale. As we get ready to get into the Stanley Cup playoffs again, with the Preds Stanley Cup run is kind of the template for what the draft ended up being, and then they had the uniform release party on Lower Broadway with, Florida Georgia Line and Vrabel and Robinson up there singing along to Cruise and stuff like that, having a big time. 14,000 people show up for mostly a concert, but also new uniforms. And the draft itself has taken on a different kind of life of its own, but at the core of it, it's still about the players. It's still about the foundational process of building a team. And in this team's case, it's a pretty much ground-up rebuild, having gotten a few core foundational pieces that we've talked about a million times over and over again in place. Will Levis, Tajay Spears, Peter Skoronski, with vets like Jeff Simmons and Harold Landry, now L'Jarius Sneed, DeAndre Hopkins, and Calvin Ridley in to supplement it. But the core of your football team, the core of the roster, has to be built organically and has to be built through the draft, which is why this team has been in the shambles that it's been, because the prior three drafts, prior to 2023, nightmarish. And they're still trying to dig out of it.
They're being forced to add cornerstone pieces in free agency.
Well, yeah, because they haven't been able to retain anything that would be considered a cornerstone piece. Now, I'm not saying that you should have built the foundation of your franchise on Corey Davis or Jack Conklin or Adoree Jackson or any of the other first-round pick, Rashaan Evans. I mean, these were not, you could make the argument for Conklin and Davis and I guess maybe Adoree, but still, these were not guys that you were 100% sold on, and again, speaks to some of the flaws of the drafting process that got us to the state that we are currently looking at.
Yeah, they have no choice.
With the Titans. So, with 9 days to go, I try to limit the amount of mock drafts that I look through. And I'm not somebody who, goes through the mock drafts a million times. I'll do a couple of them on Pro Football Focus every year because, occasionally there's prospects whose name you don't know. You want to research a little more. You want to try and make sure you're as well-rounded with this stuff as humanly possible, but not like to a degree where I really enjoy the mock draft stuff, but I do enjoy the people who take the time to do it thoroughly. Peter Schrager is one of those people at the NFL Network. And as we are now in the single-digit day range for the NFL draft, he has put out his first mock draft of the offseason, having taken weeks to speak to specifically head coaches and general managers about the players in this draft, about the position that the respective teams are in, and try to create one of the more informed one of these things that exists. Now, some differences in this that I think you will find notable. There's definitely a couple of different wide receivers that he's projecting as first-round picks that I have not seen in a lot of other places, based on just kind of scanning things around. For example, Jalen Polk, the Washington wide receiver. Not a lot of people I've heard talk about him as a first-round prospect. He does have him going 32nd overall to the Kansas City Chiefs, so at the very, very end of the first round. But still, Ladd McConkey, also a first-round pick in this particular mock draft at 31 to the San Francisco 49ers. This comes on the heels of a tweet I saw this morning from Adam Schefter, who said there has never been an NFL draft with more than 19 offensive players picked in the first round. That happened 3 times, most recently in 2009. But this draft is likely to set the record for the most offensive players ever picked in round 1. Do you remember who was a part of the 2009 draft?
Oh, man, 2009.
You remember who the first overall pick was? I'll give you a hint. He's an SEC quarterback.
An SEC quarterback. Oh, well, just tell me.
Matt Stafford was the first overall pick in 2009. Guys like Jason Smith, Mark Sanchez, Darius Hayward-Bay was the 7th overall selection by the Raiders.
Titans pick?
The Titans selection in that year. Oh, you want to guess? 30th overall.
Give me a hint.
After Hakeem Nicks, before Beanie Wells.
Who was it?
Kenny Britt.
Kenny Britt.
Titans legend.
Had some fun with Kenny Britt. Some big performances.
There were a few and far between for Kenny Britt, but enough to make you want to hang on to Kenny Britt for a period of time, and then it didn't really materialize the way that you wanted it to.
I can't believe I forgot Stafford. Not only...
What, are you just beating your head back there?
Stupid. Not only could it be the most offensive players ever taken, but if QBs go 1 through 4, which is
possible,
very plausible, that also would be the first time ever. And that would require a trade somewhere, right? That would require the Cardinals moving out of 4 and potentially the Patriots taking a quarterback at 3, which is not a sure thing.
And that's what Schrager has. Quarterbacks coming off the board 1, 2, 3, and 4. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, and J.J. McCarthy. The first non-quarterback selected he has by the Chargers, Marvin Harrison Jr., who we've discussed as the most pro-ready prospect, arguably, of the 3 top wide receiver prospects. Now, I know you talked, was it yesterday or Friday that you talked about, a discussion that we've had before, that you initially dismissed Joe Alt and the Chargers. The percentage chance that could be a real thing in an offseason where Los Angeles has released Mike Williams, has traded away Keenan Allen to the Chicago Bears, whose top wide receivers are now Josh Palmer, VFL.
Yes, and Quentin Johnston, who did not have a good rookie season.
Did not at all, and has, again, high-end potential, but struggles to consistently catch the football, which is a problem for a wide receiver, especially one with a first-round pedigree. But then that's where the wide receivers start. Harrison Jr. and then Roma Dunze at 6 to the Arizona Cardinals, who he has here projecting a trade with the New York Giants, who also have needs at wide receiver. The Cardinals, so he would have New York moving back. I'm scrolling.
Schrager?
Yes.
He's got the Giants moving up to 4, moving 2 spots up to take J.J. McCarthy.
That's right.
And he's got the Cardinals at 6 taking Roma Dunze.
I was scrolling the wrong way. That's my mistake. So, yes, a trade up for J.J. McCarthy, which is why the quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3, 4. Joe Alt still to the Titans at 7. Again, it remains as consistent a mock draft pick as Caleb Williams going first overall to the Chicago Bears. I feel like we get so hyper-focused on one name. If it's not Joe Alt, do you think Titans fans are going to be disappointed?
No. I think even the Titans fan that is most adamant about taking a tackle at 7, like me, I have been all in on, please just get your tackle at 7. Just secure that spot with the 7th pick instead of chasing it in the second round and continuing to kick that can. That person has to start day 1. No matter what, take a tackle at 7. That said, Titans take Malik Neighbors at 7. I'm going to find a way to get excited about Malik Neighbors being on this football team. Or if Marvin Harrison Jr. were to fall to 7 somehow, some way. So I don't think it would be that. I don't think Titans fans, maybe some would, sure. But it's a hell of a lot easier to get up for wide receiver if you don't get the guy that you really wanted at 7. Still pretty easy to get up for a Malik Neighbors type of player that can be explosive as a part of this offense.
Yeah, that I guess is the thing that, we've reiterated is this is such a layup draft for the Titans in particular to address all manner of needs that this team has. And it's not to say that, not 100% of the plan is going to go correctly, right? There's going to be some things that don't go exactly the way that you want them to. And, maybe on the off chance that this turns out to be something like 2019 and you get a draft that you can survive on, or not even survive on, but thrive on for multiple years to come because you've nailed basically every pick save one. DeAndre Walker, is that the Georgia outside linebacker?
Yes, he was a 5th-round pick in that
He
draft.
did not last very long in the league. I think he ended up in Seattle after his second training camp here. Either way, basically, this has the potential to be that kind of draft for this team. And if not the kind of top-end players like a Jeff Simmons and an A.J. Brown and a David Long, for example, you can still get plenty of high-level players at plenty of positions of need to get this thing to base-level function, which it has lacked in the last 2 seasons for certain.
I don't remember the last time that a pick was so almost unanimously mocked to the Titans. Joe Alt at 7. Every time.
We
mock
talked
draft
about this.
you
It was Mariota.
Mariota. That's the last time. Yep. The only mock draft I've seen recently that does not have Joe Alt at 7, I talked about it Friday, was Nick Baumgartner, who posed the QB's 1, 2, 3, 4 scenario. He's got the Titans taking Roma Dunze at 7 and Joe Alt falling to the 8, 9 range.
How big is the Bill Callahan factor in the pre-draft process? Because I believe it to be huge. Not just because, Bill Callahan, arguably the most heralded assistant coach that the Titans have ever hired, or at least that the Titans have hired in my recent memory, to fix a position group that is as bad as any in the league for the last 2 seasons, whether it's getting him a top-flight prospect like a Joe Alt or him being able to give you something more from various players later on in the draft, whether that be a later first-round pick or a high second-round pick, as we talk about 38. There was a lot of interesting quotes to come out of Brian Callahan's last media availability, but in particular, the one about his father and the pre-draft process. He made sure to make it about the entirety of the coaching staff and kind of the slog that it's been on short notice to try and get this thing turned around. But there's no question that Bill Callahan has had a tremendous amount of impact and influence on his son's staff in the early going. It's a long quote, but I'm going to read it to you anyway. This is Brian talking about Bill. He's put in a tremendous amount of work. All of our coaches have in this process, and we started out behind. So we had to get an evaluation of our roster. We had to get an evaluation of free agency. You had to get the evaluation of the draft prospects. Your reports have to be in. Coaches read our reports the last 2 days, and it's been a tremendous amount of work for our coaching staff. And it's one that I appreciate tremendously. The passion, the effort that they put into evaluating these players on the coaching side has been fantastic. My dad's been no different. I think if you ever got to see one of his reports and how he writes and the detail he goes into, it's something to behold, I guess is the best way that I can say it. Incredibly detailed, has a great vision for what it looks like and how those offensive players fit at each position across the front. And he's seen a lot of it. He can draw on comparisons that not a lot of people can draw on when he's evaluating players. He might compare somebody to somebody he coached in 1998, and half the scouts are like, who's that? Like he's just got such a wealth of experience and players and evaluating players that he's a huge asset for us. He's a huge asset to me personally with that position because it's a hard position to evaluate sometimes and get right. I add parenthetically, don't have to tell Titans fans that. He goes on, I feel like he's got a pretty good track record of being pretty spot on, how he thinks guys fit and what they can do well. So huge advantage for us to have him and a huge advantage to our scouting staff to be able to ask him questions and lean on his expertise. Brian Callahan of his father, Bill Callahan, who is here to coach the offensive line. So it's not just, obviously I'm sure you talked about the trade that was made last Friday with the tackle Leroy Watson from the Browns. They traded away that 7th round pick. I wanted them to get rid of Lucas. It made me very happy. Get it out of here. I don't want to wait around on Saturday. Let's go.
They still got 2.
That's fine.
You're waiting around on Saturday anyway. They traded away the earlier 7th rounder. They still have 252.
No. I manifested Will Levis into existence. I manifested 227 out of here. I'll do it again, damn it. Don't test me. So Leroy Watson traded to the Titans from the Browns last Friday, 7th round pick. I'm sure you talked about his experience with Cleveland. I'm sure you talked about his experience on the San Francisco 49ers practice squad with Rand Carthon.
Former tight end.
This is somebody, yes, a college tight end, absolutely so. But it is starting to, you're starting to get options, basically, at a variety of different positions. You're starting to identify swing players. And it makes even the pressure of taking the tackle at 7, Lucas, I think a little less, even though Leroy Watson is not going to be the long-term solution for the Titans at left tackle. I do think that you're giving yourself the kind of buffer that this team exactly needs. 615-737-1045 is the number. Russell says in the F&M Bank chat, if you want to interact there, Titans need to go offensive line with the first 2 picks. He says, I've never seen I'll use a different phrase, but basically, he's never seen the amount of hype over a position coach like Bill Callahan with the Titans. There's not another one that comes to mind. So this will be my 8th season covering them. I don't remember a position coach, a coordinator even, being this kind of celebrated for a Tennessee Titans coaching staff hire.
I mean, Dick LeBeau, just a legend of the game, right?
Yeah, but that was at the end of the Bengals' tenure, and it was not as... Dick LeBeau was...
Steelers, right?
Steelers, you're correct. End of the Steelers' tenure. He was a player for the Bengals, if I remember correctly. End of the Steelers' tenure. I think Steelers fans had become disenchanted with Dick LeBeau. I think there were some criticisms of the scheme that he was still running at that particular point in time in the NFL. You could argue that Dean Pease... I think Dean had a little more hype around him for the actual football than rather just legend of the game. And I'm not saying that Dick LeBeau wasn't a completely capable defensive coordinator. That's not what I'm saying at all. Dean Pease is probably the last one that I remember being that big a deal. But even then, like the Titans defense was not horrendous from Dick LeBeau to Dean Pease, right? This is worst position group, arguably, in football, getting the best possible position coach, arguably, to come in and retool it with a solution already at left guard, with the number 7 overall pick to potentially address whichever tackle or however you want to address the rest of the offensive line, and the best center in free agency already coming in to supplement this thing.
Think about the difference in voices in that room from last season to this season. From Jason Hotaling, first-time offensive line coach, very inexperienced assistant in the NFL, former, D2, D3 college head coach.
I want to say D2. I can't remember exactly the
Wagner. To Bill Callahan, arguably the most accomplished offensive line coach alive in the NFL. I mean, you could not be more opposite ends of the spectrum. And Jason Hotaling could end up being a great offensive line coach in his career, and he's now the assistant O-line coach in Chicago, correct?
Yes.
I believe that's where he landed.
Yeah.
But just could not be more of a departure from what you had last year with the first-time guy in that role to Bill Callahan.
And I know it's a father or a son talking about his father, so he's going to speak in glowing terms, and Bill Callahan deserves that kind of praise across, so many years of coaching, and in particular, so many years coaching the offensive line group with great success. Does that give you any less kind of trepidation about just take the tackle at 7, rather than this guy is going to have the scouting staff armed to the teeth with knowledge about this offensive line draft class? They're going to have multiple cracks at this with the best possible advantage for the scouting staff. What does Rand Carthon call him? Big coach? You got coach and big coach. Brian Callahan is coach. Bill Callahan is big coach. So big coach is in the meeting rooms, in the war room, getting the entire Titans scouting staff ready for a particularly talented, or maybe not particularly talented, but a particularly deep group of tackles specifically to try and get this position right and left figured out.
Well, whatever happened with Andres Pete, who is still a free agent?
I bet that's a post-draft free agency situation. There's going to be teams who don't get exactly the tackle situation that they want. They'll probably be willing to pay him more. It's just like George Fant, right? George Fant came here. He got offered vet minimum. I'm not saying Andres Pete got offered vet minimum here, but Fant got offered vet minimum, didn't like it, went on down the road to Houston, got a better deal because he played better. He started games and, was banking on the idea that he was probably better than the starter that the team had in place, which in this case was MPF, and he was correct about that assessment. What in sports made you say, oh, no? Do we have anything for people to win today? Do you know? Have you looked?
We might. Do you think we do?
Well, that usually means that you're stalling the check. I was right last time when I said yes. Hopefully for the people, I'm going to be right again when I say yes.
What we have to give away for whoever
Keep scrolling.
gives us what made them say, oh no, in sports this week and
Talk
has
slower.
the best submission is a family 4-pack of tickets to see Monster Energy's AMA Supercross Championship at Nissan Stadium, April 20th. That's this Saturday, thanks to our Window Nation ticket window, 615-737-1045. The best oh no submission will get the tickets.
That's next. What in sports made you say, oh no? Got some good submissions. Got a 4-pack of tickets for you to win if you give us the thing that made you say, oh no, in sports. Lucas, specifically, what is the event at Nissan Stadium that people will have the opportunity to win tickets to?
Supercross. It is Monster Energy's AMA Supercross Championship at Nissan Stadium this Saturday, thanks to our Window Nation ticket window. Best submission will get a family 4-pack.
Let's do it. You weren't ready?
No, you didn't give me enough time.
Erectile.
Okay. Now send it back to the audio.
Go. Erectile.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no!
Oh, no.
Oh yeah!
Oh, this show makes me say, oh no. What in sports made you say, oh no, this week? Mine was last night's WNBA draft. Lucas, in the history of you paying attention to professional sports, have you ever paid attention as much to a WNBA draft as the one that went down last night?
I didn't watch it, but I was keeping up.
Well,
I was intrigued.
I had it on in the background while I was getting stuff together, coming home from vacation yesterday and paying attention to the news cycle. Obviously, the high-profile stars in this year's WNBA draft have everybody's attention, whether it's Caitlin Clark, whether it's Camila Cardoso, whether it's Angel Reese, on and on the list goes. Congratulations, by the way, to all the women who got drafted into professional basketball last night, except the thing that made me say, oh no, Lucas. We have talked before about women's basketball. We've talked about the idea of women's basketball coming to Nashville, the WNBA coming to Nashville. Mayor Freddie O'Connell has said that he would be interested in that. I have said, me in particular, I know not everybody feels this way, but I would prefer a WNBA team. I would prefer a basketball team. Let me say that flatly. I would prefer basketball to baseball. That is my personal preference. Doesn't have to be yours. Men's, women's, whatever. I'd rather watch basketball. But the WNBA's financial struggles or financial situation has been well documented. The biggest problem is people like me have just kind of ignored it and are ignorant to the idea of just how drastic those financial struggles are. When I see this tweet last night of Caitlin Clark, the first overall pick in the WNBA draft, and what her rookie contract looks like, her rookie 4-year deal, that's the thing that made me say, oh no. I'm legitimately shocked, and I shouldn't be, because this information's out there. This information's available. A rookie contract, a 4-year deal of 4 years, $338,000, $338,056 rather, with an annual salary hovering just around $80,000 a year for a professional athlete. And listen, I know she's going to make gobs of money doing State Farm commercials. She's one of the highest profile name, image, and likeness athletes in this new era. So we'll see how that continues to go. Financially, Caitlin Clark is going to be okay. She's not having to live off her base salary. But it reminds me of the Brittany Griner story before people took it and politicized it and turned it into a whole different thing. All right? Why was Brittany Griner in Russia? Do you remember?
Yeah, she would play in Russia in the offseason to make money.
Because they don't make money in the WNBA.
A lot of WNBA players do that.
$76,000 is all Caitlin Clark is making in 2024. In her rookie season, that's disgusting to me. Now, Fanatics said that they sold out of Caitlin Clark jerseys in every size as soon as she was drafted to the Indiana Fever last night. She is going to help raise the profile and help raise the salaries of the women's basketball players in the professional leagues. But $76,000 blew my mind. I could not believe how little it is that women's professional basketball players make. And again, that's my fault. That's ignorance. But that was the thing that made me say, oh no.
It is crazy to look at. But what she does to grow the popularity of the league and the Indiana Fever will hopefully in turn get to a point where her second contract will be substantially bigger. Like, I am not smart enough in economics to know how disgusting that is. Like, I don't know what the WNBA makes. Like, when we say it's disgusting, are we saying because that's just the state of it, or are we saying that like something's being withheld from these women?
No, the state of it. And again, I haven't looked through the WNBA's finances, okay? I understand that the NBA subsidizes it. I understand that it's not a television ratings draw, that the women's college games are drawing bigger Final Four numbers than the men's college games. Hasn't ever happened. And it's new for women's college basketball, too. Like, women's college basketball has been bigger than the WNBA. But this is truly a record-setting year, and we'll find out after this year whether the level of star power that's left in women's college basketball is enough to maintain that kind of momentum where it can turn into more of a trend than an anomaly.
Like, if the people that are outraged about this aren't watching a minute of the WNBA, then it's like, what are we doing?
No,
right?
I've admittedly, I've never watched an Indiana Fever game. I'm going to watch Caitlin Clark play for the Indiana Fever.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to watch Camila Cardoso and Angel Reese on the Chicago Sky. That sounds electric to me.
A draft by the Sky.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this particular draft is jam-packed full of name-brand stars that not just the women's college basketball fan knows, but the larger sports-consuming society in North America now recognizes. This is a different caliber of star that we're seeing, even if there have been great WNBA athletes before, which is something that Caitlin Clark paid tribute to on her SNL appearance over the weekend. Weren't ready for that one either.
Wow. Thanks for doing that, Michael.
Yeah, no problem, and good luck in the WNBA. I hope you have a great first season.
Thanks. I'm sure it will be a big first step for me. But it's just one step for the WNBA. Thanks to all the great players like Cheryl Swoops, Lisa Leslie, Cynthia Cooper, the great Dawn Staley, and my basketball hero, Maya Moore. These are the women that kicked down the door so I could walk inside. So I want to thank them tonight for laying the foundation. And Michael, since you're such a big fan, I brought you a souvenir. It's an apron signed by me.
Thank you. I can't wait to give this to my girlfriend.
You don't have a girlfriend, Michael.
She was great. She killed it on SNL this weekend.
By the way, I think SNL might be making a bit of a comeback.
Oh, yeah?
They've been, last couple weeks, they've stepped up their game.
I couldn't tell you last time I watched SNL. Anyway, go ahead.
Also, the idea of Caitlin Clark taking a pay cut because she's a WNBA player now is hilarious to me. Like, she's just going to lose every endorsement. Yeah. Like she was making a salary from the University of Iowa. No.
But that as her base salary from the reason that she is a marketing draw, $76,000 in her first year, $78,000 in her second year, 85.8 and 97.5 in the final years of her rookie contract. Blew my mind. Couldn't get over that.
My O-No of the weekend is Wyndham Clark, who had this to say on Friday at the Masters.
Yeah, we got 54 holes, and in live golf, they only play 54, so I like my chances. We got a lot of golf left, and yeah, I mean, as you can see, someone shot 7 under. I could do that tomorrow. So.
Wyndham Clark went 6 over and missed the cut after taking shots at live golfers for only playing 54 holes and saying he likes his chances.
Congratulations to Scotty Scheffler, by the way. That was really cool to see. All right, we'll take your phone calls on this coming up next. Also, offensive players in the first round. How many do we think will actually go? I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
It is 11:01. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. The Nashville Predators regular season is officially over. A 4-2 loss at the Pittsburgh Penguins on Monday, but the Preds are locked in to the first wildcard spot in the West heading into the playoffs. Their playoff opponent, not yet official. The NHL's regular season ends on Thursday. WNBA draft was on Monday. As expected, Caitlin Clark went number 1 overall to the Indiana Fever. Tennessee forward Rakea Jackson went number 4 to the LA Sparks. And the Chicago Sky selected South Carolina center Camila Cardoso at 3 and LSU star Angel Reese with the 7th pick. The spring transfer portal opened today. Tennessee linebacker Elijah Herring is the first Vol to enter his name on the football side. The Riverdale product is heading into his junior season. In Tennessee basketball, acquired Hofstra transfer Darlingstone Dubar announcing his commitment on social media, a 40% three-point shooter from the last 2 seasons. For other foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Could be a record-setting draft here in just about 9 days from now. Tennessee Titans could have a role to play in it, certainly figure to. We'll tell you how in just a second. Welcome in on this Tuesday. It's good to be back from vacation. Appreciate Lucas and Jackson holding it down for me in my absence. We got phone calls to get to for the opportunity to win some tickets. What in sports made you say, oh, no, this weekend? And our dear friend Lyndsay Rowley of Bally Sports will be in to talk some Preds with us as they get ready for the postseason and find out very, very soon who their first-round opponent will officially be. Feels like Vancouver right now, but we will see how that all comes to pass in the next couple of days. So we'll get to the oh-no calls, and then we'll talk about this record-setting NFL draft, specifically how the Titans figure to be involved in it. Let's get started with KJ up first. Hey, KJ.
Hey, guys. You hear me good?
We sure can.
Okay. Well, you stole mine there, Buck, but I was going to add to it just a little bit, but I'll give you another oh no, but I just wanted to add to yours. Even though she is getting paid less for $5 million or $3 million, however much it was, she getting paid more money. I don't know for the day. I'd have to say is the portal in Tennessee losing Adu and the other guard.
Talk about a Waka.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Christian. Or excuse me, KJ. The transfer portal losses for Tennessee basketball definitely impactful. And remember to stay on hold so Lucas can contact you afterwards for the tickets. They did get a transfer from Hofstra. We'll talk about him a little later. And the spring transfer portal is officially open for business in the world of college football. We'll get into a Tennessee defection and what that might mean here in just a little bit. Tony is up next.
Hey, guys. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
As much as I want to go with the Oscar Mayer Wiener beer drinking straws that have become a new hit lately, I'm going to go with my submission for the Neil Shipley and Tiger Woods note on the 8th. The reporter asked Neil Shipley at his presser what the note was that Tiger Woods had handed him on the 8th fairway, and Neil Shipley said, no, that didn't happen. Full launched investigation now into Notegate, and nobody knows what the note said or if it even actually happened. That is oh no for me.
Thank you for the call, Tony. So do you know what he's talking about?
I totally missed this.
So it's just it was a weird awkward exchange where he's the only amateur, Shipley, to make the cut at Augusta over the weekend. Played his final round with Tiger on Sunday. Shipley was, overwhelming in his praise about Tiger, the experience of playing with him. Had a weird reaction to a reporter asking Shipley about Tiger handing him a note, he goes, as Tony just said, no, that didn't happen, even though there's visual evidence of Tiger handing Shipley something that appears to be a note.
Here's the audio from Shipley.
I saw on a fairway, he wrote something and handed you a note. What was that about?
He just kind of looks off to the side.
No, he didn't.
I thought he wrote something and handed you a piece of paper.
No, that didn't happen.
Okay.
He just looks off to the side as if he's looking to someone to tell him what to say.
So the reporter goes on to, just kind of insist a little bit that, are you sure he didn't write something down on the 8th and hand it to you? He said, no. So it's just kind of a little awkward moment. Nobody knows what's going on with Notegate, but there's a big mystery. The internet wants to know what's on the note that apparently doesn't exist that Tiger Woods handed to Neil Shipley. Not a bad one. Bradley in Nashville, the last submission. Go ahead, Bradley.
Hey, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my submission is you touched a lot on it with the WNBA draft last night, but them putting Holly Rowe interviewing the women after they got drafted, I feel like that's Kevin Hart interviewing Shaq, where the entire time her head was on a 90-degree angle, arms straight up. It was a weird look.
Oh, Bradley, that might be my favorite. You think ESPN's paying for a chiropractor visit after that?
I mean, it's not just one night of it at the draft. It's all season. Nobody does sidelines better in the women's game than Holly Rowe. She's been doing it all season long for the biggest teams, interviewing the biggest stars in the sport. So she's definitely used to it by now.
That's tough. They could at least get her like a step stool or something like that if she's going to be interviewing Angel Reese and just straining her neck and arm to try and get the microphone up there. That's funny. All right, Lucas will pick a submission here in just a little bit for the opportunity to go see the motocross finale at Nissan Stadium. A family 4-pack is what you will win. So stay on hold, and Lucas will get back in touch with you here in just a second. We started the show, or talked about in the first hour of the show, the idea that this could be a record-setting NFL draft. This expects to be a record-setting NFL draft where there has never been an NFL draft with more than 19 offensive players picked in the first round. It's happened 3 total times. The last, most recently in 2009, the one where Matt Stafford went first overall, as we discussed. No matter where you look, there is minimum 20 to 22 offensive players being selected in the first round. And you can go down the names. They're very familiar at this point. Whether it's the quarterbacks, there's 4 of them, arguably, that may go right out the bat, 1 through 4, in Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, and J.J. McCarthy. No matter how you have them stacked, there's the wide receivers, Marvin Harrison, Roma Dunze, Malik Neighbors. However you want to classify Brock Bowers, whether he's a tight end or an offensive weapon, he's in there as well. And then this is a particularly talented tackle draft, of which you will see quite a few names. Now, whether Bo Nix sneaks into that group, guys like Xavier Worthy or Amarius Mims, the tackle from Georgia, Graham Barton, the local product, the former Duke left tackle, or kind of looking around at some of the borderline dudes like Ladd McConkey and Jalen Polk, 2 wide receivers who are high second-round picks for sure, but depending on the team needs, and every team has need at receiver, could go wide receiver there and get those 2 into the first round, or some player that we've been talking about or haven't been talking enough about that a team has a higher grade on than we might expect them to. The Titans are going to go offense in the first round, it almost feels assuredly. There has been some discussion about the idea of edge. Dallas Turner, the need for a corner is still there, but you've got your 3 starters in your at least nickel defense. And I don't think that you're going to spend a first-round pick on a safety, not particularly in this draft.
Or a linebacker, which you desperately need.
And there are linebackers that can be had, but you probably can't go much further past the second round. You definitely can't go much further past the second round when you don't have a third-round pick to use. So it does still feel like the Titans will be a part of this record-setting offensive player draft. It does feel like, I mean, for all the discussion that's had about where the league is trending and offense, more points, more quarterbacks, more wide receivers, and on and on and on it goes. Is it notable to you that that 2009 was the last time we had this kind of volume for all the time that we spend talking about offense and quarterbacks and wide receivers?
Not really, because how many edge rushers have gone at or near the top of the draft?
Oh,
now,
so
wasn't that
many.
long ago that we went 1-2 with Walker and Hutchinson, right? How many corners have been top 5 picks? So as the league gets more and more favoring the offense, it makes sense that more and more investment is going to go to the defensive side to stop those players. So I'm not necessarily surprised by that, but it's not an elite cornerback draft, right? There's some good edge rushers at the top, but not a Will Anderson type of prospect or Aiden Hutchinson type of prospect.
This has the potential to be the best wide receiver draft of all time.
Exactly. How far down before we even get a defensive player? Like, I guess a wild card is always a trade into the top 10, but if anyone's trading into the top 5, it's going to be for a quarterback.
Yeah.
So you get to the Chargers, it's going to be offense. Giants are probably going to go offense. Titans going offense.
I can't justify a defensive player before 8, to be honest
Atlanta.
with you.
Yeah, that's the first one that you look at and feasibly say, yeah, I could see like a Dallas Turner there or something.
And Atlanta's been able to survive with not that much talent on the defensive front. They added a couple of safeties last year that did wonders for them. The defensive coordinator, Nielsen, in fact, he's in Jacksonville. The Atlanta defensive coordinator did a really good job there with not a lot to work with beyond a banged-up Grady Jarrett. In fact, I think Grady Jarrett's last game of the season was against the Titans in Will Levis's debut. I believe that was the game that he got injured in. So, yeah, probably not before the 8th pick, and that's a pretty rare thing, especially with edge rushers in this draft, or in the league, not this particular draft class. All right, Preds are in the playoffs. Lyndsay Rowley is here. We'll talk to her in studio coming up next. All right. Anytime we are graced with Lyndsay Rowley's presence in studio, it's always a good thing, except this has become ritual at this point. We have to check her teeth.
They're good.
To make
I made
sure
before I came in.
Just to make sure.
Yeah.
One time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate you. Yeah.
That's not how this should start. I
you.
haven't seen you.
I'll never forgive you.
That was like 2 years ago.
Unforgivable.
It sounds, that sounds like many people in my life, first and foremost, so I understand the sentiment. Two, again, I apologize for not informing you that you had something in your teeth when you came in to do a segment with us. I thought most people were aware that the radio show was on camera. Apparently not.
That was like one of my first times. So, no, I did not know.
Okay. Well, we survived that. You're still here. You still decided to come in. Your hockey team's back in the playoffs.
Yes. So exciting.
Okay. So what have the last couple of months been like for you? Because on the outside, it's been an absolute joy to see the way that this team has put it together, the 18-game point streak that they were on. The way that they've been able to do it, the exciting brand of hockey that Andrew Burnett has brought in his first year, and Barry Trotz seeming to have galvanized this team in a couple of different ways and bringing it together and trying to bridge the gap between the Preds that were and the Preds that are right now. It has to be a pretty cool experience to see this thing grow over the course of 82.
Yeah, it's been really cool, and I think it's safe to say that, Trotzy should be considered for the GM of the year. I think Bruno should be considered for the Jack Adams, and don't even get me started on Yossi for Norris. It's been a really fun year. It was interesting. I think it was kind of a tale of two seasons, or two halves of a season, I guess you could say, because of course we all know about the U2 incident where they decided to call off the concert, which I guess, I don't know, maybe they owe U2 a thank you. They should write him a thank you.
Okay, relive the U2 story, because I have the gist, okay?
Yeah.
But for the
I can't
audience,
believe I didn't come back to you two in this segment.
who may not be from, well, it's because you're lazy and you just throw whatever 3HL bumper that you have in there so you can come in here and chat with Lyndsay and dunk on me together. I understand.
What U2 song would you have wanted me to come back with? And
Doesn't
I'll do it
matter now.
I was going to say, but any of them, you know. Well,
big U2 girl, Lyndsay Rowley.
The hits, yeah. The hits.
The hits.
The hits. Play the hits.
Play that entire album they dumped on everybody's iPhones a couple of years ago.
There you go. No, but so the Preds had a very rough, and that's an understatement, loss at home to Dallas, who now may end up being a first-round opponent, which would be crazy, very poetic. But they lost 9-2 on home ice. And the next day, from what I understand, the team was addressed and kind of said, from the coaching staff, from management, just, the trade deadline's around the corner. The next stretch of games, you're going to kind of decide what we're going to do. And after that game, the team went on 18-game point streak. So I think they made it very clear that they wanted to not only make it into the playoffs, but potentially make a run. This is still a team that is considered, was deemed a competitive rebuild. And now look at them. I think that, I would say, from what I judge on social media and following other reporters of other teams, nobody wants to see the Preds in the playoffs. Just from, just the pure grit and the effort that they have. And, you look at we have some veterans on the team who know how to win a cup. You got Ryan O'Reilly, Ryan McDonough, and then Yost has been to a cup final. Sissons has been to a cup final. So it's interesting. I talked to Jeremy Lauzon post-game last night about, even with the loss, how confident is this team going into the playoffs? And his eyes kind of lit up and he was like very confident. Speaking of which, Lauzon, for how young he is, he broke the NHL record for most hits in a season last night in Pittsburgh. Pretty impressive. So he's going to be huge in the playoffs as well. Sorry, I'm all over the place a little bit, but we got in late
Lyndsay
last
Rowley
night.
visit without being all over the place.
I know. We got in late last night from Pittsburgh, so I'm sorry.
Stay with me, girl.
But anyway, going back to your original question, it has been an exciting second half of season, and I think that momentum is still going, and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
So it's between, basically, and depending on how these things play out later or throughout the course of the week, between Vancouver and Dallas. Dallas, as you mentioned, would have some degree of poetry to it, not just for the loss that kind of spurred this on, but the idea that Matt Duchene may be awaiting you on the other side.
Yeah, and don't forget Dallas beating us on home ice in the last 13 seconds, scoring 2 goals earlier in the season on home ice. So I think there's a lot of animosity between these two teams. It's always fun when they face off, but then when they had Duchesne and Duchesne started lighting it up, and I mean, you got Craig Smith too on that team. I think, oh, buddy.
Crazy legs.
Yeah, crazy legs. I don't know if you saw the start to the Devils-Rangers game. When was that? A few weeks back, where like they dropped the puck and just everybody dropped their gloves.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I kind of picture in game one for Dallas Preds.
Well, I'm all for that. I am all for the violence of hockey. It's one of the things that makes the sport so exciting. But yeah, there's a lot of implications to this, and to be back in the postseason, like last year was such an anomaly for the run of consecutive years that the Preds had made the playoffs, to end that unceremoniously, and for the franchise to kind of be, I don't know, it looked, at least from the outside lens, and I know it's always different from an external perspective, but I wasn't really sure how they were going to go about this, and bringing in new management and Trotz taking the fort, or going, assuming David Poyle's role and him sliding into the background while still having a level of influence there. Obviously, it just didn't. The direction wasn't clear to me, but they seem to have taken this very seriously and turned it around at a faster pace than I'm imagining most Preds fans would imagine.
I think it faster than Trotzy thought too. I mean, he did an incredible job in the offseason as far as free agents go. I mean, Gus Nyquist is top 2 players in the league season-wise over the age of 34. 1 is Sidney Crosby. 2 is Gus Nyquist. I don't think he always gets enough credit being on that top line with O'Reilly and Forsberg. But O'Reilly, another free agent, signed and coming in, I don't know how many he had last night, but coming into last night, 68 points, second most in his career. And then Luke Shen, who's been just a big body and been a great leader, too, in the locker room. He's one of the most interesting interviews I've ever had. I love him. But no, I think that everybody expected them to, that's why they called it a competitive rebuild, because they thought, all right, they're not going to get their butts kicked, but that nobody really expected them to make the playoffs and make a run like they did in the second half of the season. And now, I mean, like I said, I don't think there's many teams who want to see the Preds in the playoffs. So it's been really all the credit in the world to Barry Trotz and to Bruno. I think Bruno's system was difficult for the guys to grab onto, and that's why we saw them succeed so much in the second half of the season, and now they've got it down. And I think that fast pace is something that we haven't necessarily seen a lot of in systems in the past for the Preds, and man, they're doing a good job with it.
Our friend Lyndsay Rowley, Bally Sports, here with us. You can see her on the Preds pre-intermission, post-game coverage with Hal Gill, with Chris Mason, with the whole crew.
When a switch gets flipped like that and things are trending one way, like you said 2 months ago, we're like, playoffs probably not going to happen for this team in year one. And then the switch gets flipped and it completely turns on its head, just the entire outlook of the season, the way they're playing. Is it just that, what you were saying, simply that Brunette's system kind of clicking at some point? Like, what factors do you throw into why they turned around the way they did without any major personnel changes?
I mean, that's a great question. I think that's the $1 million question. I go to the system because I know that, starting the year, it was more difficult for the guys to get in a rhythm with it. And I mean, Bruno says that when he was talking about when they picked up Zucker and Beauvillier, just talking about, it's going to take them some time to look how, and he's made references before, look how long it took our team to really understand and click with the system. So we got to give them some grace. So for me, that's because I don't know if there's other than that. I don't know how much rhyme or reason it is. And as much as I joke, I don't think we can say, oh, it was the U2 concert that woke them up. Like, I don't think that turns a whole season around.
I mean, how much did I love that Lyndsay just pointing a finger there. The U2 concert. We figured it out.
That's what it was. I mean, I think that of course lit a little bit of a fire under their butts, but I mean, I don't think that turns a whole season around. I think, it was.
Just let us do our dumb sports analysis, Lyndsay. It doesn't have to be serious and logical all the time.
I mean, I am curious how much of an effect that it's fun to talk about because of the timing of it and everything.
Yeah.
Like, how many Preds players are actually such diehard U2 fans that really made that big of a difference?
They probably don't even remember the concert.
I think they were excited too because it was it was the last one of the tour, and it was in the
Sphere, right?
Yes,
the Sphere
in Vegas.
I couldn't think of it.
The big
the big thing. But no, I don't know. I mean, you have to ask them. I don't I've never had the courage to really ask at this point in the season, like how much that did. I'm afraid I might get some looks considering I'm on the plane with the team all the time. I don't know. I want someone else to ask that question.
Oh, we'll happily do it. We do dumb stuff with Forsberg every time he comes on the radio show.
Yeah, ask Phil next time he's in here. Maybe I would do it like off camera, like but I don't know if they would like me repeating that if it wasn't.
We absolutely will do that. Speaking of Forsberg, he increased his record-setting goal total last night. They did lose 4-2 in the season finale against Pittsburgh. And that was a big win for the Penguins to be able to hang on there in the Eastern Conference. But for him to have 48 goals, now the single-season record for the franchise, you talked about Yossi for sure and Forsberg. The way that the two of them have been working off of one another has been just so electric, and it has made, no matter how attached you are to this current generation of what the Preds look like, it's got some of that 2017 vibes that give you that excitement to what, potentially this team can do with some old heads.
Yeah, Phil has been a force to be reckoned with, both him and Yost, but Phil in particular, if he just wants to take over a game, he gets something in him. I mean, he can, and without a doubt, he's so skilled. We've seen him creative goals all up and down every single season. I don't know. And he also, like, of all the seasons I've watched him, he just seems to be having more fun, like noticeable fun. Like, he's just out there like playing pawn hockey, it kind of seems like. And I don't know if it's because he's about to be a new dad or whatever it is, that dad strength. We did a graphic or looked it up, like every guy who's had a baby like the night of or the next day, it's like, I forget how many, but I think it's over 90% of them have like scored a goal. Phil should score a goal anyway, but it's funny. I was doing the hockey for her at the arena, and his wife Erin was one of the people on the panel asking questions. We had a bunch of the wives up there, and I felt kind of bad for her because the question answer got like flipped all the way. And I mean, she's such a. I'm joking when I say I feel bad for her. She's such a great personality, and no one was offensive or anything like that. But everybody was asking like, "Hey, if you have the baby, can Phil stay in the game if it's a game night?" Like, are you gonna make him leave? And she was like, she's so funny. She was like, team first. She was like, he can see the baby afterwards. She was like, she was so funny. She was fantastic. And but she's like, Phil and I have kind of had those conversations, but we haven't come to what we would like landed on what we're actually gonna do if he's in the playoffs still and it's a game night and I go into labor. So, but yeah, either way, Phil's gonna be a huge key in the playoffs for sure.
It's an element that keeps popping up. Scotty Scheffler over the weekend making it through the Masters en route to winning it for the second time on the verge of having. Did we determine that it's his first child?
It would have been his first, so she didn't go into labor, and the baby's expected by the end of the month. So he won the Masters, and he gets to be there to see his baby born.
Excellent. Always Win-win. Fun to kind of play out those scenarios. Lyndsay Rowley hanging out with us in studio. So what is the vibe right now heading into the postseason? Obviously, the opponent yet to be determined, as we talked about, but how do they try and maintain this level of play? Because it's not like the special teams have faltered very often, but when they seem to struggle, that seems to be the cause.
Yeah, I think especially this back half of season, they've been in a rhythm, particularly the power play. End of regular season numbers are the second best power play in franchise history. So I think you got to give credit to Bruno, and our penalty kill is always been, I mean, when they're on, they're incredible. We've got some amazing killers, and you give credit to assistant coach Dan Highnote for that, for getting them going and putting up good numbers. It's also, no matter who you're going to face a strong power play. So ultimately, to stay out of the box, you don't have to worry about it. But that's not very realistic, especially in the playoffs. So I think you're right. Special teams could be a make or break point. But right now, I think both penalty kill and the power play are feeling extremely confident. So I don't necessarily, knock on wood, see that being a huge issue, especially to start. I mean, I don't know. There's just not like a cocky. There's a kind of a confidence, swagger kind of feel around this team right now. And to be honest with you, I'm confident no matter who they go up against. I'm not saying they're going to go out there and kick anybody's butt or sweep, but they're going to compete.
Better matchup to you? I know we talked about all the drama and kind of off the ice stuff that we could talk about with Dallas, but the better matchup, if it's Dallas or it's Vancouver. Haven't seen Vancouver since the turn of the new year.
Right.
Went 0-3 against them. It's a different Preds team, and Dallas potentially the number 1 seed. Better matchup to you. Who would you rather face?
I think Vancouver. I think they've kind of hit their peak. Not to say that they're going to be an easy matchup by any means. There is no easy matchup. They're incredibly skilled, incredibly fast. So it's going to be tough. But you also have to take into consideration, I mean, sometimes if the plane to the game hits wind, you're talking over a 4.5-hour flight. So, but that being said, the Predators starting on the road have time to get there. We'll probably get there a couple days in advance when we find out when we're playing and be able to settle in and get used to the time difference. Whereas when Vancouver comes back, they're probably, I would assume, have less than a day and they're not going to, I mean, yeah, sure, at home they're in their own beds, but in that way you could kind of argue that the Preds have a little bit of an advantage, being able to get out to Vancouver, get settled in. But for me, as far as on the ice, travel is going to be a pain in the butt, but I think that the Predators have a better chance against Vancouver. I say that, and we were talking to Bruno about it, and we were like, hey, what do you think? And he goes, I go either way. He was like, I've played in the playoffs, I've coached in the playoffs, and sometimes you get the matchup that you want. And he's like, and we got our butts kicked. He was like, and then you get the team and you're like, man, this is going to be tough, and you end up winning it. He was like, so, I mean, all bets are off in the playoffs. It really is. But if you ask me who I'd rather face on the ice, I would go Vancouver.
How hard does that make your job, though, in particular with you guys as you're trying to set the table for these particular matchups? Because we've got, obviously, you can live stream the show on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, where potentially you could see something in Lyndsay Rowley's teeth, but not today. Where Emmett Jones says hockey has the hardest gauntlet to a championship than any other sport. The playoffs are tough to get through. So with that in mind, I mean, game previews are always less interesting than talking about the result in our industry, but when you're kind of taking that into consideration, how much do you have to weigh in? At the end of the day, yeah, it's super random in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and anything can happen. Yeah. Anybody can get got, no matter how good or bad you feel about the particular matchup.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I 99% sure this is true, at least in my 9 years. This is going to be the longest break we've had between regular season and playoffs, because we're done and there's still, I mean, the NHL goes till Thursday, I believe. And they're going to start, I think Sunday will be the first games. Everything's kind of speculation right now. It'll be Sunday, Monday. But I think a lot of it depends on availability of arenas and the national schedule and things that are way above my pay grade. But I think for us right now, we're kind of fortunate in the way that we've got so much time to prep for this. We know all of our storylines, and obviously we're super familiar with Dallas, and Vancouver's been in the spotlight all season. So as far as prep goes, I mean, the story kind of writes itself, honestly. But it's going to be interesting to see, like, first of all, where we're going and when we're going. And there's something to be said also for a team resting for that long. Like, I know a lot of our guys would love to just get right at it right now, but some of them, bumps and bruises through the season. It is nice to be able to give some of those guys some rest, and they will be fully rested. That's for sure. Hopefully rested, not rusty. That's kind of the goal.
She's never rusty. She's Lyndsay Rowley. She's hanging out here with us in studio. You got another segment of this nonsense in you?
Also never rested.
Oh, yeah, never rested. I never rested, always rusty. That's Lyndsay Rowley.
I was not going to. Oh, no. Lucas informs me that you have things to do other than put up with our nonsense, so we're going to let you off the hook today, having put up with enough of our abuse. But I always appreciate you taking some time, because I know it's not like you don't look rested, because I would never say that to you, because I'm within striking distance, but it is an incredibly difficult...
I will come across this table like a spider monkey.
I know. That's why I'm not doing it. But
jacked up on Mountain Dew.
Perpetually. I feel like you making time for us, I really appreciate it, because I don't know that I would do this for anybody if I had your schedule, girl.
Love being here. Love you guys.
Lyndsay Rowley with us. The Preds are off for the time being, but we'll find out very, very soon who their first round matchup will be. 615-737-1045 is how you join the discussion. Talk a little Tennessee transfer portal coming up next. Do you like U2? You've been to multiple U2 concerts with your dad, right?
Oh, yeah. My dad raised me on U2, and I very familiar with their catalog. In fact, every time I talk about the Preds from here on out, I will work in a U2 reference.
Nobody believes you. You're going to forget that.
I'm going to do it.
You're going to do that in the name of?
In the name of love.
Mm-hmm.
A cup run would be the sweetest thing.
Always appreciate Lyndsay coming in. She's electric every time she does. I think it's because she's sleep deprived and overcaffeinated. But either way, we'll take her and her analysis anytime. And looking forward to seeing the Preds back at it in the postseason. Ja-El on the YouTube chat says that 2017 run was one for the ages. Absolutely. It's as much success as they've had as a franchise. And I don't know if they're able to recreate that. Is that the hardest sport to sustain success in because of how chaotic the playoffs and the postseason environment is in the Stanley Cup? We've seen teams do it. We've seen the Tampa Bay Lightning do it. We've seen Vegas have varying amounts of success since they've been jump-started in the league. The Penguins have had success over the course of Sidney Crosby's career. Certainly he has just been excellent after the Penguins season looked like it was going absolutely nowhere. But I would imagine that the NHL is the hardest to sustain postseason success in.
It's the hardest to win in the playoffs, for sure.
So how the Preds go about doing this, it's been spectacular so far. You just hope that that's able to continue. And, it sounds like the tools are there for them to be able to try and stretch this thing out a little bit. Looking forward to it. Transfer portal, the spring transfer portal officially opens today. How many times does the transfer portal open year-round? Is it 4 now?
This window will be 15 days. And I said yesterday, I think this is going to be the craziest transfer portal window we have ever seen since the portal became a thing.
It already is in basketball. It's wild in basketball.
In football, too. This is from Max Olson, who covers the portal for The Athletic, and I don't know how he does it because he is all over the place on top of all of these moves.
Again, sleep-deprived and overcaffeinated like Lyndsay.
He tweeted 2 hours ago that last year, 90 FBS scholarship players entered the transfer portal on the first day of the spring window. Today is the first day of the 2024 spring window, and 90 FBS scholarship players entered the portal before 10 a.m. Central Time. So it already has the most movement that we've seen in a spring window. And the factors are Alabama had to sit back and watch their roster get pillaged for 30 days after Saban retired. Jim Harbaugh leaves Michigan. Washington making a coaching change. Mississippi State, Texas A&M. All of those programs have roster holes and are operating at a bit of a deficit in certain areas because of the transfer portal rules that apply to teams that lose their head coach. So it's going to be wild. And Tennessee actually may not have the bullets flying everywhere. Like, they're in a good spot here where they do not need a surefire starter anywhere. Depth here at running back on the offensive line, sure, and you never know what names will enter the portal out of nowhere that you have to replace, like the one that we've seen today in Elijah Herring. But they're in a good spot right now in that they do not need to scramble to find an answer for their roster in the portal.
Yeah, to Lucas's point, Elijah Herring, the off-ball linebacker from Tennessee, did announce yesterday on social media that he would be entering the transfer portal on Twitter. Quote, "I'd like to thank Coach Heupel and the University of Tennessee for the opportunity to play in my home state. I appreciate all the support from the entire staff, my teammates, and fans. I've decided to enter the transfer portal and pursue other college opportunities. Love the Vols." So, as you mentioned, led the Vols in tackles last season, but was in the lineup as a product of injury because, of course, Keenan Peely goes down in the opener against Virginia. So Elijah Herring steps up and takes his place. They've also been able to recruit well at that position, and it sounds like this is just a product at this point in the season, or I guess in the offseason, that the transfer portal for Herring makes more sense because it just sounds like he's going to lose snaps.
I think so. Arion Carter, too, the 5-star from Smyrna, was a true freshman last year, missed basically the second half of the season due to injury. So Elijah Herring would not have led Tennessee in tackles if not for those injuries. Local guy, Riverdale High School. His younger brother, Caleb, was the number 1 recruit in his respective class in the state of Tennessee, pass rusher. He's still on campus. See if he can take a step and help this pass rushing rotation. But yes, Elijah Herring, it makes sense. Arion Carter, Keenan Peely seem like they're going to command that room. Jeremiah Thielander, a rising sophomore, has made a lot of noise, had a great spring practice. Edwin Spillman made a bunch of plays, had a sack on the first play from scrimmage in the spring game. Another local guy, Lipscomb Academy, true freshman, inside linebacker, has really flashed. So there's just a lot of bodies in there. And Elijah Herring wants to go elsewhere and find an opportunity.
So transferring out is Elijah Herring. Transferring into the basketball program is Darlinstone Dubar, I believe is how his name is pronounced.
Awesome name.
Coming from Hofstra, 6'8", 211-pound guard, averaged 17.8 points per game and 6.8 rebounds. He was just under 40% from three as a senior at Hofstra last year. Second team All-Coastal Athletic Association. Transfer portal, as I mentioned, in basketball has been crazy. Losing Adu and Awaka to the portal, less than ideal. But again, I have confidence in Rick Barnes being able to manage the situation well, not just in recruiting, but in the portal. Not looking to find another Dalton Connect, as we mentioned. I don't think that you can recreate that level of success, but this is a part of the process to replacing that production, and good to see a veteran presence join it's not really a young team, but they do, never bad to have another senior, another super senior to kind of help guide you through the most important time of year, which is tournament time, and add a little depth at the guard position.
They are basically doing a roster rebuild, essentially,
Sure.
with a couple key pieces like Meshack and Ziegler still in place. JP Estrella will take a big step, but with Awaka out, Jonas Adu out, DJ Jefferson, Freddie DeLeon, who didn't really make an impact last year, that makes sense, but they're definitely going to have to reassemble that entire front court, and they'll have the opportunity to do it. The amount of 7-footers in the portal right now, the 2 from Arizona,
I want that Dallo kid.
Ballo. Yeah, the one from FAU, and Kay Tyson, the 7-footer out of Belmont, who's an excellent three-point shooter, visiting Tennessee this week. So a lot of opportunity in the portal. Do you want a summation of just the craziness right now of this kind of sums up what is happening in college football? Maybe not. Maybe that's a bad way to put it, because this is an extreme example. But Tyler Barron, the former Tennessee defensive lineman, obviously went to Tennessee, went to high school at Knox Catholic, was a local guy, 4-star recruit at Tennessee for about 3 years. He transferred out of Tennessee after last season to go to Ole Miss, left Ole Miss for Louisville, and Brendan Marcello reported this morning that Tyler Barron is entering the portal. So if Tyler Barron does indeed leave Louisville, he will be on his 4th college football team since December 8th, 2023, without playing a snap in between. Now, this reeks of NIL situations left and right. I don't know Tyler Barron's situation. I don't know Tyler Barron personally. I also don't understand why Tyler Barron didn't just enter the draft. I mean, that was a guy that could have been a day 3 pick, if
this
not.
year.
Yeah,
sure.
100%. At worst, a UDFA where you're making that money that you're looking for here in NIL, and you don't have the damage to your draft stock that will be you flipping all over the place just to go find an extra buck here and there. I mean, I don't know what is going on with Tyler Barron, and again, potentially his 4th school since December 8th without playing a single snap in between.
Speaking of the draft, we are 9 days away, and there is a huge thing that football fans must keep in mind when talking about who their favorite team might draft. We'll tell you that coming up next, and the latest, a really good deep dive from Steve Cavendish at the Nashville Banner about MLB to Nashville and the viability of that thing actually going through. I'm Buck Rising. The final hour is coming up next. So many people trust Two Rivers Ford. Football players, working moms, business owners. Why? Because Two Rivers Ford has been doing business with integrity for decades. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
Mortgage professionals in Middle Tennessee. Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, owner of Wesley Mortgage. I'm a true local, born in Mount Juliet, met my wife at MTSU, and I live in Franklin. While every other mortgage company is cutting back, we're rapidly expanding and investing. Are you sick of feeling like an operations employee to ensure your loans are closed on time? When you look around your office, it doesn't look the same. You're missing people. You're missing your friends. Is anyone having fun? We're having fun every day. As the official mortgage provider of the Tennessee Titans, I've personally recruited the top local operations team to ensure your loans are closed on time. So you get paid. So you get to spend time building your business, and you get to have fun at work again. Now is the time to join our team. To start a confidential conversation with our local president and COO, visit whywesley.com. whywesley.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
It is 12 o'clock. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. The spring transfer portal opened today. Tennessee linebacker Elijah Herring, the first Vol to enter his name on the football side. The Riverdale High School product heads into his junior season in 2024. Tennessee basketball acquired Hofstra transfer Darling Stone Dubar. He was a 40% three-point shooter from the last two seasons. WNBA draft was on Monday as expected. Caitlin Clark went number 1 overall to the Indiana Fever. Tennessee forward Rokeia Jackson went number 4 to the Sparks, and the Chicago Sky selected South Carolina center Camila Cardoso at 3 and LSU star Angel Reese with the 7th pick. The NBA play-in tournament begins tonight. Lakers and Pelicans tip off at 6:30, the 7-8 game in the West, and then it's Warriors versus Kings. It's the 9-10 game in the West. That is a 9 p.m. tip. The Nashville Predators' regular season is officially over, ended in a loss in Pittsburgh yesterday, but the Preds are locked in to the first wild card spot in the West. They will await their official opponent as the NHL regular season continues through Thursday night. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
It is no small feat, and it's not a layup, even though there are plenty of opportunities for them to address multiple needs in this draft at a variety of different positions. They've still got to get it right, and John Robinson will tell you it can be pretty difficult, even if you have a decent run of success at the start. Pressure's on. And this is as important an offseason as I can remember, certainly in my 8 years or coming up on 9 years living in Nashville and covering this particular team. But I feel like this is as optimistic as I can remember Titans fans being in an offseason, because 2 years of that slop has really drug you down into the mud. And at this point, you're just looking for something to give you a little hope. There seems to be reason to be optimistic. There seems to be reason to hope. Certainly your football team is making moves like they believe they've got something to cook with. But the primary ingredients have to come through the draft, as we've talked about. And the thing that I think most football fans, what's the biggest thing that you think football fans have to remember around draft time, Lucas? Is there one in particular that jumps to mind?
The biggest thing football fans have to remember around draft time.
Like just a guiding principle that you would caution, maybe not caution, but you would advise football fans on, where they get so caught up in so many different elements of the draft process. Is there a guiding principle that you would offer them?
Just how much we are not privy to, right?
Yeah,
that
sure.
You might be hung up on a certain prospect, but the conversation between said prospect and whatever hypothetical team did not go well. And there were certain things about that prospect and the way he views life/football that doesn't vibe with the culture or the system that team runs. And you look at it from bird's eye view and say, this guy, great player, team need. You are fools for not drafting him. It is incompetence at the highest level, not knowing the conversations that actually happen in these rooms, which are job interviews. It's what they are. And if you don't impress in the job interview, sometimes you're not going to get the job. So I think just how much that goes into these decisions that we do not know yet we still judge these decisions, as we should, but just keeping that in mind.
What percentage of football fans think their team already knows who it's going to draft? 9 days away. We're in single-digit days. What percentage of football fans do you think are operating under the assumption that their team knows definitively who they're taking, at least in the first round?
Well, no team outside of the Chicago Bears, I think, know definitively who they are taking. Maybe the Commanders.
But the fan bases, because I think that's the biggest gulf around draft time of year. Beyond Caleb Williams and the number 1 overall pick, 9 days out, this would be my guiding principle to remind any fan base of, whether it's Titans fans, Jaguars fans, Packers fans, whatever, your team doesn't know who it's taking on April the 16th. Truly, they do not. They will have all of their due diligence done. They will have a variety of different scenarios in place. At least they should, if they're doing the job the way that the job is meant to be done. They'll have all manner of resources at their disposal. They'll have all different manners of input from levels of the organization who have a hand in the scouting and vetting process with which to make their determination. But on April the 16th, nobody besides Chicago knows definitively who it's taking yet. And I think football fans, I think fans get way caught up in the mock draft as being a more definitive resource than it should be taken as. And you see the same names mocked to the same teams over and over and over again, and so you just assume that that is the same process, or that's the same kind of way that the draft itself will actually play out. When in reality, you could land with Joe Alt at number 7 overall, but not because the mock drafts have been telling you for 6 months that you're going to land Joe Alt at number 7 overall, but because that's the way that the draft board rolled out. The quarterback draft gave you the opportunity to land the best left tackle prospect potentially, and maybe he's not the best left tackle prospect to them. That's the thing. That's where the confluence of your guiding principle and my guiding principle, that we don't have access to tons of information that the teams do, and that the teams will not have made anything definitive really until about 2 or 3 picks before it's their turn to pick. That's the way that this thing typically plays out. Now, the thing that I think looms over all of this for the Titans, the action between, let's say, 6 with the Giants and 11 with the Vikings in the first round. That seems like it is the range, and obviously the Titans in the middle of that at 7. That seems like the range for the most trade action. Wouldn't you agree? Where you have the quarterbacks probably at least going 1-2, if not 1-2-3 with Chicago, with Washington, and with New England. You have Arizona sitting at 4, not in need of the quarterback, but of course the trade-up scenarios make a ton of sense. Between 6 and 11, with the Giants sitting at 6 and the Vikings sitting at 11, that seems like it has the potential for the most trade up or down action of any spot in this particular draft.
I would expand it beyond that. I'd expand it by 2 picks on each side.
Okay.
Up to 3/4, where it's Patriots-Cardinals, down to 12-13, Denver and Vegas, both very QB-needy teams. I feel like that is the range that we're looking at in terms of potential movement.
New England is the thing that can disrupt most of the conventional thinking, right? Of any of the top picks, certainly in the top 10 of real ripple effects that could happen, New England probably needs to draft a quarterback. There has been mixed reporting on what their plan actually will be. There was a huge contingent of Patriots coaches and staffers, including the new head coach and GM at Jaden Daniels' Pro Day. That does not determine at all that Jaden Daniels, 1, will be there at 3 for them to select, or that they would take that quarterback anyway. It's just, a part of the John Glennon calls the injury report that is produced at the end of every Friday practice. Our buddy John Glennon at the Nashville Post, he calls it the crafting of lies. That's basically what the entire draft season is to me. It's just all a big crafting of lies.
New England is the first team that you hit at 3, where it's like, okay, this is where...
Let's get weird.
Yeah. Now, unless they stick and pick Daniels or whoever at 3, then it kind of stays status quo. But the Patriots, what do the Patriots have right now? What is the state of that roster right now with Gerard Mayo in his first year as head coach.
They have a safety. They have Kyle Duggar.
I mean,
they have.
Who's the receiver they signed?
It's that Eagles bust. What's his name? Jalen
Rager. Yeah.
How did you just pronounce his name?
Ragor.
Ragor. Is he a Game of Thrones
Sounds like
character?
a Lord of the Rings villain. Jalen Rager. Okay. Yes, Jalen Rager and Kyle Duggar seems to be the makeup of the Patriots roster right now. The roster's in a bad way. So you inject Dayton Daniels into that. I don't know how that's going to look in 2024. I feel like do you think most Patriots fans just want their quarterback, or are they saying, no, for the love of God, build a competent roster and then let's figure out the quarterback instead of wasting 2 to 3 years of a rookie contract with a quarterback trying to build a roster around him?
That's a great question by you.
Or is Bob Kraft just so sick of watching incompetent offensive football that he's like, hey, I'm getting up there. I want a good quarterback sooner than later.
But the quarterback doesn't fix the offensive ineptitude, right? For the reason that you just posed.
But it puts butts in seats.
Caleb Williams, not if they stink. Caleb Williams has how long did Mac Jones' ability to put butts in seats last?
Mac Jones had a pretty solid rookie year.
He made the Pro Bowl his rookie year.
Did the Titans stink last season?
Yes.
Did the excitement go exponentially higher when Will Levis was slotted into that starting role at quarterback?
Yeah, I think it helped maintain butts in seats, but I don't think it brought additional
I don't know.
But he had a unique debut, Lucas.
He absolutely did. But even after playoffs were a pipe dream for the Titans in the regular season, you still had so much reason to watch to just get more of a sample size from your rookie quarterback.
Sure, and reason to go because you rightly assumed that it was Derrick Henry's last season here, and to watch that play out and for him to have 1,000 yards is something that I know a lot of people wanted the opportunity to at least see one more time, if not witness for the first time. So anyway, there is some truth to that, but Caleb Williams is in a unique situation because it is arguably the best roster situation that a first overall pick at quarterback has ever been dropped into. Chicago is not a bad football team. It's just not. They haven't been able to figure out the quarterback. The most competent Chicago quarterback that in my lifetime, and I know some of you are older than Lucas and I, but in my lifetime, the best Chicago Bears quarterback has been Jay Cutler. And we know what Chicago thinks of Jay Cutler. We know what the NFL world thinks of Jay Cutler. What I think New England, I just think it's so hard for people to not be prisoner of the moment. It's probably pretty split, but I would give maybe 60-40 to people who want the quarterback over who want the roster built competitively around maybe a lesser quarterback. Because it's just dragging the thing out at that point. The hardest thing to nail down is the quarterback position. Because take the 2019 Titans, okay? They built out the roster. It was all set for Mariota to go and run with it, and he couldn't. Tannehill did, but Tannehill had a ceiling that was notable to everybody. And the Titans 2019 roster, while it was great and put together well and gave them probably 3 solid seasons out of that core before it started to splinter and Lawan's knee went and AJ got traded and all this, that, and the other. Tannehill being the biggest reason why they got to the point where they did, but still kept a ceiling on them. I think you would rather have the high-level quarterback who you feel like can overcome more and try and build out the rest of the roster around him, even though you understand how often these guys get ruined. 40% of first-round picks at quarterback actually make it. And I'm surprised it's that high.
We see it too often. Justin Fields, you get to year 3 or 4, you have no idea what you have. Daniel Jones, you get to year 3 and 4 with nothing around him, and suddenly you have buyer's remorse. We just see it over and over. And at 4, I think the Cardinals desperately want to trade out. Does Monty Ossenfort not just strike you as he wants to wheel and deal? I feel like Monty Ossenfort just wants trades galore every draft.
Well, he did it the first time around.
Maybe it's just all the content by osmosis that creeps in that the Cardinals put out of him on the phone and just the way he's dealing. Every single time you see an image of Monty Ossenfort on draft night, which I guess there's only been one sample size of, but I get the feeling the Cardinals want to trade back.
Well, it's just funny knowing him a little bit because he's absolutely that guy. I'd like to see he gives off a little bit of like Secret Service aesthetic to him. He's a taller dude. He's well built. He's got he's lacking in the follicle department, but still he's got a face that reminds me of Jason Statham in what's the show where he's just the driver? You know what I'm talking about? The movies. There's a
Transporter.
Transporter. Anytime I see him in a suit, he reminds me of Jason Statham in the Transporter. What a dumb movie concept. Anyway. Coming up next, there's a big story on the Nashville Banner by our buddy Steve Cavendish. He sat down with John Lore, the person who has desperately been trying to bring Major League Baseball to Nashville. The viability of it, he interviewed John Lore about. We'll get into the details of it coming up next. it feels like every spring, summer, really once we get through the football season, that we are left with, at some point, some kind of discussion around Major League Baseball and Nashville and whether, one, it makes sense, two, it's feasible, three, how it's going to become viable. And it feels like every year we're left with the same kind of discourse, which is, yeah, the marketing is great. Yeah, it's cool to see Eddie George and Justin Timberlake in Music City Stars jerseys, but how much closer are we actually to getting professional baseball in Nashville? Major League Baseball in Nashville, because, of course, we do have a professional baseball franchise already in the Nashville Sounds. The Music City Baseball renderings, do you remember when they came out? I'm pretty sure it was like the first month that you and I were on the air that we got these renderings of a baseball stadium that was fit snugly into the East Bank on land they didn't own and literally have, as it's one of my favorite renderings of all time because of the ridiculousness and because of how terrible they made Nissan Stadium look in the shadow of this beautiful new baseball atmosphere. The pedestrian bridge literally empties out into the baseball stadium via the renderings, and the Korean Vets Bridge also empties directly into the baseball stadium. All roads lead to baseball, except the renderings were very, very premature.
Gaslighting via Oxford. Noun, the practice of psychologically manipulating someone into questioning their own sanity, memory, or powers of reasoning. Definition seems pretty severe, but it was along those lines.
That's why we prefer the Urban Dictionary versions. But yes, John Lohr, who has been the leader of Music City Baseball, and by extension, Music City Baseball, have essentially gaslit the city of Nashville and Nashville sports fans for the better part of 5 years about Music City Baseball, okay? They are 5 years into the effort. He spoke with Steve Cavendish, our buddy at the Nashville Banner, in a sit-down where they go through all the details and where the important question, the most important question, the question that continues to be the most important question, is asked and emphasized, okay, but where are you getting the money? Turns out the answer to that question is still, I don't know. These are best made plans. And listen, I'm not here to like dump on Music City Baseball for the efforts that they're trying to make. Of course there are people in Nashville who want baseball. I think we could support it well as a city, though I'm not myself particularly bullish on the MLB. I'm perfectly fine with the Nashville Sounds. The Nashville Sounds are more than enough baseball for me, but I'm not I guess I am technically the target demo, but like, I don't know. It's not going to change my life that much, whether it's a Nashville Sounds game or a Music City Stars game. Like, I have enough baseball in my life with the baseball that we have. Originally, the timeline for this thing was to complete construction of a new baseball stadium by early 2024 and commence competition. That never happened, obviously. Things changed with the East Bank. Again, they didn't control the land. The money they don't have to build the actual stadium. The global pandemic certainly sent things spiraling much more than they could have imagined. And they had to change their original focus from acquiring an existing Major League Baseball franchise, for example, the Tampa Bay Rays, to now primarily being focused on expansion. This is the quote. My original focus was that I felt like we could solve some pieces of the puzzle, potentially to make this attractive to Tampa Bay for relocation. This is John Lohr speaking to Steve Cavendish in the Nashville Banner. That's NashvilleBanner.com if you want to read the full article for yourself. There's some good details in there. Right now, it has been clear, it would have been a clear-cut case of Tampa can't work itself out, move them to Nashville. Their lease expires in 2027. Ballpark's got to get ready. You know, that may have changed things quite a bit. Right now, it sounds like MLB is going to expand to 32 teams. But again, Lucas, can you tell me what the biggest issue for Major League Baseball in Nashville is? What are you reading?
Cheez-Its.
What's the biggest issue?
Don't ask me rhetorical questions. Just answer it.
Money. Money is always the answer to all of your questions. Go back in the shadows and eat your Cheez-Its. Unbelievable. What? Oh, I thought I was being fined. I got confused. So, David Sampson of CBS Sports and Meadowlark Media was on the radio show yesterday. You guys know that we've had Sampson on before. He's an excellent guest, and Lucas did well to book him on Monday to talk about a variety of these things, including the idea of Major League Baseball and the city of Nashville.
The question was, how close is Nashville in David Sampson's eyes, former Miami Marlins president who brought a team to Miami, at least helped bring a team to Miami?
Well, took them from Toronto and then moved them to Miami.
Something like that.
I would assume they're tied for first and tied for last. I would view everyone in the 0-0 position, even Vivek in Sacramento, where he said, oh, we're in the pole position now that we have the A's playing here temporarily. I think that's absolute horse hockey. I think everybody has equal chance. And what you need to do, and you're mentioning that it's quiet, the best deals are the quiet deals. Getting, and this, I'm going to talk about this a little tonight, but spoiler alert, getting the public involved, whether it's a referendum, whether it's public discourse and debate, it never works well for sports financing. So if a community is trying to get a team, the best way to do it is to have political leadership who's willing to carry the water and do it quietly. And therefore, when an announcement gets made, it's made with information. We've got a financing package. We're not increasing taxes. We're going to be taxing tourists, as an example. We've got an ownership in place who's got the money for the relocation fee. We've got the location for the ballpark. We've got a TV deal. All of those things can happen behind closed doors, and you can be really in a great position. So I think it's a positive that you haven't heard anything, though I do understand that it can seem negative. But we'll talk, again, more about that tonight at City Winery. But that's a great question.
So David was promoting a live show that he had here in Nashville at City Winery, and I'm sure that went very well, and I'm sure all who attended were thoroughly informed.
And strategic by David on a live show tour of his podcast was in nothing but MLB markets apart from Nashville, the only city that is not currently a Major League Baseball market that made the tour.
But where the discourse is always about the viability of it, and where we have the winter meetings regularly at Opryland. We've had them several times for the Major League Baseball winter meetings, and that continues to be a place where Major League Baseball likes to congregate, where these discussions are had. So what he described, now, the Titans Stadium deal was not quiet. Everybody in the world knew that something had to happen with Nissan Stadium, and the city didn't want to stay on the hook to continue to try and keep that thing up and running because the cost of basically dumping more money into Nissan Stadium didn't make as much sense as building a new one. And I know that there are plenty of economic reasons to kind of push back on that, but still, the priority was keeping the NFL. Freddie O'Connell, who is now the mayor, and again, I will reach out to the necessary parties about this to see if we can't have Mayor O'Connell on, because we did have John Cooper in about the Titans Stadium deal, but John Cooper was very much pro keeping, or at least privately, was very much pro keeping the National Football League an entertainment venue that could be used for Super Bowls, for WrestleMania, which just drew the biggest live streamed audience on Peacock, like super scale international type events that the new Nissan Stadium could host. John Cooper was a proponent of that, even though there was some blustering on the front end about, just basically saying the right things to appease the people that did not want the stadium while still trying to finesse the stadium itself. Freddie O'Connell has come out very publicly against the Titans Stadium deal, even though that's already happening, and has not been a proponent of Major League Baseball to Nashville. In fact, he has been more interested in pursuing, by his own statements, women's professional basketball, the WNBA. And I don't know if it is a situation that you look at the messaging from Freddie O'Connell and say, well, he's just doing the same thing that John Cooper did. You just can't publicly come out and say it. There are certain political aspects of this thing that have to be appealed or appeased But I don't think it's inconsequential. And also, you have this coming out from Yahoo Sports, an interview with Kathy Engelbert, who is the WNBA commissioner. Of course, the WNBA had their draft last night. Caitlin Clark went first overall to the Indiana Fever, and you had a bunch of star power distributed across a league that really, really could use it. WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert has announced that the league is considering Philadelphia, Toronto, Denver, Nashville, and South Florida as potential cities for WNBA expansion in an interview with Yahoo Sports. So it's definitely something that Nashville has publicly messaged around, that the WNBA is interested in pursuing, and would be still have, the issue of financing. Who's footing the bill for this? If you're going to do it expansion style, in the same way that Major League Baseball would still have to find somebody to foot the bill. But it sounds like it'd be way more financially feasible to do it for women's basketball than it would for Major League Baseball. And then again, as Cavendish points out in his article, the city is still on the hook for the Nashville Sounds and the financing that went into First Horizon Park, that's just smack dab in the middle of Germantown and isn't big enough for Major League Baseball, but it's perfect for what minor league baseball needs to be. They would have to be bought out. Frank Ward, who owns the Sounds, would have to be bought out in any MLB deal. And the debt issue, as Cavendish writes, Metro is still on the hook for roughly $80 million in principal and interest left on the bond debt that built First Horizon Park, and has a specific interest in what happens with baseball in the city. I'm not somebody who's over the moon about the idea of MLB to Nashville when the Sounds are already here, and that's good enough for me. But I know plenty of people are like, all right, get rid of the Sounds and let's do Major League Baseball. That's way more appealing. Do you think that this market with the NFL, with minor league baseball, with MLS, and with the NHL, on top of college sports, however you view Vanderbilt and the attendance that they do or do not draw, do you think that the sports market is already too saturated for either Major League Baseball or the WNBA, or do you think that there's a case for either, I doubt both, but either to be supported?
It's so with Major League Baseball, there would be butts and seats, without a doubt.
Agreed.
Like it would be a success from a financial, from a business standpoint, a marketing standpoint. It could be done. I just wonder about how solid, how concrete the fan base would actually be, and how much of it would just be people in town catching a game, right? Like if you are a baseball fan and you live in Nashville, you have an allegiance. Mm-hmm. You've probably been a Braves fan your whole life.
Or a Cardinals fan.
Or a Cardinals fan.
Or a Reds fan.
Or you've got a family from Chicago, so you grew up a diehard Cubs fan.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that worked with the NFL.
Yeah.
Right? So
it worked with the NFL. Now, football is a different product than baseball is right now, though the live attendance is the thing. But it's not even a matter of fan support to me. It's, okay, sponsorship dollars. The thing, and it's not just because we're in the sponsorship game too, Sports Talk Radio is a part of this, but on a much smaller scale, how many dollars are there to go around for the various teams? Geodis is the naming rights sponsor for Nashville SC. Nissan, Bridgestone. How many companies are there? And we're getting more companies, right? Amazon is opening up its footprint very soon here in the Gulch. You've got Oracle, the software development company, completing their campus in Germantown. This is an attractive place for businesses, and the economic growth of Nashville as a city is huge. So maybe this is a smaller concern than it seems like it is in my head. But I wonder, I don't have the answer to this, but I wonder how many dollars there are to actually go around for more professional sports leagues to compete for, especially when the kind of competition that you're talking about is Major League Baseball, which is low on the totem pole right now in the American sports hierarchy, and the WNBA, which, again, is shocking to me how little they're paying their players, and apparently their financial situation is far more dire than I've ever actually realized, because all I've ever heard is, well, the WNBA doesn't make any money and doesn't get any television ratings, but I've actually never realized that until I saw that Caitlin Clark was going to make $76,000 on a rookie deal. 615-737-1045 is how you join the discussion. Gil in Nashville is next.
Hey, Buck, how you doing, man?
Great.
Awesome. I was driving, and I'm sorry I had to call you. When you told me that the mayor of Nashville doesn't want the Titan Stadium, but he wants to bring a WNBA team to Nashville who doesn't make money, is absolutely hilarious. Listen, we need the Titan Stadium. It's going to bring in a bunch of revenue, a bunch of tax dollars. Now, if they don't overspend the tax money, they'll put a little nest egg away. But I mean, think about WrestleMania, the Super Bowl, concerts not being rained out because there's thunderstorms at Nissan Stadium. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Plus, the Titans aren't going anywhere, and the NFL makes money. I don't want a WNBA team in Nashville. That's stupid. That's like saying we need a hip-hop museum downtown when Nashville's a country music city. I mean, come on, man. Invest in something that's going to make a little bit of money. That's all I got to say, guys. Thanks, man. I love your show.
I appreciate the call. Well, a couple of things there. The stadium deal is done. So whatever Freddie O'Connell's messaging on it has been, I don't want to say it's irrelevant because he's the mayor of the city. His words have consequence, and he has publicly been outspoken about his lack of interest in seeing the stadium deal, even though the East Bank project is a huge part of that, and his predecessor very much pushed to get the stadium deal done before he left office, to John Cooper's credit. So however Freddie O'Connell feels about the stadium deal, publicly or privately, that's happening. It's more a conversation of WNBA over MLB, it sounds like. And, the comment about country music city versus, having a hip-hop museum downtown or whatever the case may be. Nashville is a music city, and that genre the lines are very, very much blurred between what Nashville is as a music city. And, Lucas, you could speak more to that than I could. But, the departure from Nashville as just country music, I think, was made many, many years ago.
Beyonce's topping the country charts right now.
Yeah. And, and if you're somebody who says, well, that's not country music, well, okay. Well, now it is. You know what I'm saying?
But that's besides the point.
Yeah, we don't have to get down that rabbit hole.
I understand the argument of what does the WNBA team do for the city of Nashville if there's no concrete evidence of a WNBA team bringing in revenue for any of its market
to date,
cities.
for sure. This season in the WNBA is a fascinating test case for can you generate revenue with women's professional basketball? Because to date, you are 100% correct. It hasn't helped. The NBA has subsidized that league, has had to. All right, last call for phone calls. We've got a bunch to get to. We'll do that. Updates and polls. Get you over to Blaine and Mickey coming up next. All right, let's wrap this bad boy up for the day, though. Blaine and Mickey, 3HL, going to keep you entertained. Who's on Blaine and Mickey today? You said Kyle Tucker?
Kyle Tucker of The Athletic. I look forward to listening to that and hearing him encapsulate the saga that was the Kentucky basketball coaching search.
Yes, I have yet to laugh at Kentucky fans for the Mark Pope hire, though the Cats fans seem to celebrate that en masse at Rupp Arena over the weekend.
They've rebounded. Despite the outcry that was social media, for what it's worth, for the most part. They didn't have a literal revolt like Tennessee fans did. But it was overwhelming. Like, I hopped on Matt Jones of Kentucky Sports Radio's Twitter Spaces. He did a Twitter Spaces discussion.
You're helping the competition.
I know. There were 25,000 people in there. and I was just cackling.
What would have to happen for me to do a Twitter space that had 25,000 Titans fans in it? Like, the franchise would have to get moved or something. Something catastrophic would have to happen.
And just, I was cackling, to be quite honest, Thursday night, listening to, like, he'll select a fan, and this one fan's like, Matt, is there anything we can do? Like, just tell us. Like, us, the fans, like, how can we kind of step in here?
Rally the troops. Matt Jones leading a KSR insurrection.
People were freaking out. I'm not going to watch this year. I'm done. Unserious program. They were melting down, and then they filled out Rupp Arena for a press conference over the weekend.
D Good on YouTube says I would get 25,000 people in a Twitter Spaces to celebrate my personal downfall. Great. Love that for me. Thanks. 615-737-1045 is the number. Last call for phone calls before we update some polls. JJ is in Nashville up next.
Hey, good afternoon, fellas. The guy called before the break yesterday is a hip-hop museum. This is the National African-American Museum with African-American music, which is right across from the Opry. So we do have that in downtown Nashville, and it's doing very, very well.
It's a great museum, by the way. It's under the Fifth and Broad setup. I'd recommend it to anybody.
Yes, and I recommend he go see it and learn something. Now, the only reason why I called was, yes, I hope MLB comes here because I'd love to see the Yankees and not have to go to New York or Atlanta to see my favorite team. I think baseball would do very well in this market. It would be similar to what we see with the Titans. Yes, you'd have a lot of Cardinals fans that come when the Cardinals show up, or a lot of Yankee fans or Astro fans. It'd be like that, but I do believe it could be successful here. The WNBA, I have zero interest in it, not because of their political views, but because we already have a very full summer as it is now with MLS, the AAA baseball team. And you remember I don't know how successful it's going to be, but we got back into Arena League football with Coach Fisher. And I hear those commercials with Eli Gold. So really the summer is kind of packed. I don't know if it could succeed. If it can't succeed in New York, Atlanta, and larger markets, and at least break even, how's it going to succeed in Nashville? Okay, that's just how I see it.
I appreciate the call, JJ, and it's good context, like how the respective seasons run parallel to one another. Are you in the middle of the MLB season while also dealing with major or minor league baseball, while also dealing with the WNBA?
Playoff hockey.
CMA Fest, not just to get into the other entertainment options beyond just sports, Bonnaroo, all the different things and festivals that we have as options. It's a legitimate question of saturation. Las Vegas does it fine, right? Las Vegas can do any entertainment, any kind of entertainment at any given point all at once and not miss a beat. Do we have the capability to be that kind of city? Absolutely. We already are. We are an entertainment city first and foremost. But again, it's a question of financials, who's footing the bill before these things can even happen. So
I think that would be the case, though. I think when the Yankees, the Cubs, the Braves.
Well, we're a transplant city anyway,
and the Cardinals are in town.
It would be huge.
Yeah, it would be. It'd be tough. I think it would be tough for them to truly get a core fan base together.
Well, no, it takes a long time, right? Like, and you'd probably go through some moments where they would threaten to leave because there's a lack of support. Like maybe not to the extent of like the Preds, because there was obviously an ownership situation in the middle of there, and famously, how big a part of the rally to keep the team, the zone was, and plaster at the time with all that. Those were unique circumstances. But you'd probably go through a couple of rough patches before you got to a legitimate generation of Yankees fans. How many California, New York, Chicago transplants do we already have moving to the city who would go to take, their kids or friends or family to a baseball game here in Nashville, and then future generations of them would become Music City Stars fans who grew up going to see the Music City Stars games at, against the Cubs or against the Cardinals or whatever. It would just take some time for that to become more ingrained. It wouldn't be a fast process unless you were winning. Like
the Titans were right out the gate.
Titans won right out of the gate. Preds.
But soccer and hockey were different because almost nobody in the city of Nashville had an NHL allegiance when the Preds got here. Almost nobody in the city of Nashville.
Atlanta, was it Atlanta Thrashers? Was that the hockey team?
Yes, the Thrashers that are now the Winnipeg Jets. Not a lot of people in Nashville had MLS allegiances. You could have your Premier League club or whatever European team you support and love soccer, and suddenly you have an MLS team now. With baseball, it's different because people love baseball and they have allegiances there, and I think it would be very difficult. Nashville today is different from the Nashville that the Titans walked into in the late 90s.
Oh, yeah. Totally different. Totally different. It would be a sideshow more than the main event. The NFL was absolutely a main event type of feel at that point. All right, rapid fire polls.
The Buck Rising Show's almost done. Yeah. We have come to this portion of the program where we update the poll. Yeah.
Settle down, Beavis.
Go ahead, update them, Buck. Buck.
We're gonna score.
Hey, Buck.
Buck doesn't update the polls, dummy. You're stupid.
Yeah. Time for a poll update. Hey, how's it going, man?
You said poll.
Yeah. Lucas Panzica. Yeah, are you threatening me? I am the great Cornpolio.
Hey, Lucas, can you update the poll? Lucas, give us the deets, dog.
Did you see the SNL skit, the Beavis and Butthead SNL skit?
I did. It made me laugh.
Fantastic. Like I'm saying, I think SNL's making a comeback.
We need more than a couple of weeks.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. How many offensive players get drafted in the first round? Brent says 20.
Faster.
After reading Steve Cavendish, do you still believe in MLB to Nashville? 60% say no.
Faster.
What do you want the Titans to do if the Chargers take Joe Alt at 5? 48% say take the best available wide receiver. 35% say trade out at 7. 17% say take a left tackle.
Faster.
Those are the polls.
Those polls?
Those are the polls.
All right, well done. That's the show. We ran over. Blaine and Mickey are coming up next. We got a big announcement. We think tomorrow, be listening to the radio show. We'll have a new episode of The Install. Of course, the live show's right around the corner. Make sure you get your tickets at 1045thezone.com. Blaine and Mickey got you covered right now.